Hey everybody, this is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and you are listening to the Babyfaces on iHeartRadio.
Hey guys, this is WWE Superstar Tiffany Stratton, and you're listening to the Babyfaces on iHeartRadio.
What's going on, y'all? It's WWE Superstar Kofi Kingston, and you're listening to the Babyfaces on iHeartRadio, baby!
All right, you hear that music, you know what time it is. We are back. It's the Babyfaces podcast on iHeartRadio. Download that free iHeartRadio app. Look us up. You can listen to us wherever, whenever. We're free. Never sounded so good. Powered by Kentuckiana's #1 for country, 97.5 WAMZ. I'm your host today. I'm flying solo. Austin Montgomery, our guy Billy the Kid Prickett is out. Of course, it's football season. He's in the playoff. Cooper is undefeated, and they have a huge matchup coming up this weekend. So he's got to be a little bit locked in on that. We don't mind him at all, though. We are bringing in a special guest, a long-awaited guest that we've been wanting to have for such a long time. You guys watch NXT on the CW network every Tuesday night. We have assistant general manager on with us, my man, Mr. Stone. Long time coming, brother. How you been?
Hey, I'm glad we finally did it. And I was not expecting, first of all, that was a very cool intro leading into the show.
Thank you.
And then you gave me a really good intro. So now, see, I was going to yell at you for not dressing up for the occasion with me being on, but then I realized I'm also not dressed up for the occasion. I came from the gym. So we'll kind of call a truce to start this off. A good intro. We're both kind of dressed the same. It's all good.
Well, if I would have known that you would have been in your closet, I would have asked to raid like a nice dress-up shirt or something.
Hey, if I turned this camera right now, you would see about over 100 suits lined up, color coordinated. But I'm not even going to show you that side of the closet.
That's how professionals do it. I only get suited up here whenever I have to go to like the Kentucky Derby or something. Other than that, you're catching me on one of my best dress days. It's usually some sort of hoodie and joggers. So.
Hey, you know, you got to be cozy. You got to be comfortable.
Absolutely, dude. Well, once again, dude, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you had a lot of stuff going on today. Huge week in NXT, and I can't even stress enough how cool it is having NXT on here. Actually, by the way, Mr. Stone, you are a first ever NXT guest. We've had on main roster people, we've had on OVW people. So you are the first person, a part of the other WWE branch, that's been on our show. So big claps to you, my friend.
I'll give myself a round of applause for that. Well, thank you. I mean, I feel special. And you know what's so crazy about that? I'm your first guest, but I'm also actually, I believe so, the longest reigning. I think I've been on television in NXT the longest right now of everyone on the current product. I've been a mainstay on TV for almost about 6 years. And I'm pretty sure that everyone else has either went up to Raw or SmackDown or out or wherever they went. And I'm still standing strong in NXT. And I couldn't be happier about it.
Absolutely. And you have such a fun role right now, too. You're kind of in the mix where you can get into the ring, you can do your stuff there, but you're also working backstage and playing an integral part in some of the storylines going on. And right now, like I said, you're the assistant GM of Raw. You're working with Ava, who had just got promoted, to the GM this past year. So kind of talk to us and tell the fans, like, what's that like, kind of balancing whether the backstage role and sometimes you're asked to go out and like on the camera and do your stuff there. How's that been for you, especially on the NXT developmental brand?
Well, it's great. And, not saying I'm the only one, but I do like to consider myself someone who could kind of do anything. I've last year I commentated a few episodes of Level Up. Last year I wrestled a few matches. Last year I produced a few matches. Last year I helped make a few matches with Ava as an on-air talent. I've managed guys. So you kind of list anything in wrestling, and I kind of have done it all in the last year or two, which is cool. But I love that. I love dipping my toes in everything and trying to learn. We were kind of talking about that a little bit, me and you, before we went on the air, about what you do at your job, about how you could kind of do everything. And I kind of feel I'm like that, and I like that. You could ask me to do anything, and I could do it. And if I don't know how to do it, I'm going to learn to do it very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making yourself valuable to your company, and it's about like being there whenever it's available. And you've done that your whole career. Of course, you've been at other wrestling promotions and you've gotten your character over so many times. I remember being a big fan of you when you were Robbie E back in the old TNA days. And that was always a fun play off of the Jersey Shore. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about because me and my co-host Billy, we get on here and we talk about the character side of wrestling, and we've had some of the most outlandish characters on our show, like Al Snow. He's really big into development and characters and stuff like that, and he talks about how everyone should have a character and how it should be defined. You yourself have gotten over with the character of Robbie E way back in the day, and you find a way to just keep making it work. And I've always wanted to ask selfishly, were you yourself a fan of Jersey Shore? I know you're from the Northeast, and I know you like that stuff. Was that just something that you can have fun with, or were you just more or less trying to tongue-in-cheek make fun of it, or what was that whole thing like?
100% huge fan. Was then, since the first episode, me and my wife watched it, all the clubs and bars that they went to in my early 20s and maybe my late 20s too. I went to also, so I know all those places. I know the areas. I actually know some of them that were on the cast, and yeah, I loved it. And then when I was approached to do the character, I mean, it was like a no-brainer. It was cake. I didn't have to think. It was kind of who I am. Like maybe my hair wouldn't have been as high as it was, but like a lot of my friends, their hair was that high, and and they did dress like that. So it was very natural to me, and I'm still a fan of the show. I still watch.
Oh yeah, it was one of the things. It was back when I was in high school. We always used to watch it. Me and my friends would like call each other and be on the phone and talk about it. Paulie D was hilarious, and this was also at a time where I know TNA has kind of gotten back, and Impact Wrestling has gotten back with like a contract with WWE, and now you're starting to see some crossover there. But this is when TNA was like a legit competition to WWE and kind of running with them, and I was always a big fan of that going forward. So watching that stuff and just having you on the podcast is really, really cool. And just understanding the character part of what goes on in wrestling itself. I know that there's a lot of other companies out there that really like the work rate of it, and which we totally understand as wrestling fans. That is, such a thing. But pro wrestling is so character driven, and the people that get it. Is that still a thing? I know you're working kind of in the backstage, and you're one of please excuse me when I say this, one of the elder wrestlers in the
No, it's okay. I like it.
I'm just take it as like a compliment, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of the younger talents always trying to ask some of the guys that's been around a while what they can do to help out. Is having character development and character driven, is that still like a main focal thing, at least in the NXT locker room?
It is in all of wrestling and all of sports entertainment, and even if you're not a character, right, you're still a character. Like even if you're just a plain vanilla guy, it's like what's your backstory? Like everyone has something to them, but the more you could add to it, and the more the people could connect with it, I mean, the more it's going to get over. But it's not necessarily like the old days where you're going to have a clown and a guy with a guitar and a drummer, and it be so kind of like cartoonish. Times have changed, things evolved, but everyone still is a character. It just might be more of a character you gotta look more into to learn about, or watch more to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you more or less kind of lived the life when you were kind of going through your character change. So it's probably a little bit easier for you to dive into, and whether it depends on who it is, either tones it up a bit or just kind of tones it down for the television. So I just always thought that was, a cool thing. And just hearing about that's really, really cool, because character, you have to get over. You have to make sure people care about you. I've always thought, I'm not a worker myself, but I've always thought that some of the work rate can kind of come a little bit second. And I would be fine with that, because your character has to make me believe on screen.
Well, that's the thing about wrestling. It's opinionated, right? Some people like characters more. Some people like in-ring more. Some people, everyone likes things, and that's why it's so great. But I've always, I'm a big character guy coming up. When I started, I had so many different characters that I tried. I was a pop star, and I had a headset microphone, and I sang on my way to the ring and wore polka dots. I obviously was Jersey Shore. I was a valedictorian, where I was like a guy who graduated college but still attended college. I was like the creepy older guy who still went to college parties even when I graduated college already. I was a part of a thing called the Moxie family, where we were like Italian guys, almost similar to what Tony D's doing on NXT now. So I've always played with characters and had fun doing them, and similar to you, that's kind of what I enjoy.
Yeah, and once again, I think that stuff's really, really cool. Just to come across the screen as believable and lock me in, take my money. So kudos to you for doing it and being such a believable character. And even if you have done silly stuff in the past, it's related to a lot of people, and that's the stuff that kind of gets you noticed. We were just talking about NXT and NXT, and it's such a huge deal. You guys had just made the switch from the USA Network. Now you're on CW, and you guys have had all these stuff going on. We'll get into the most recent episodes, but what's that switch to the network CW? What's that been like for both you and all the other superstars in the company? What's the mindset going on in NXT right now?
You always get that little boost of energy with a switch because you feel like, maybe some more eyes or some new eyes will be on the product. So even though you always work your hardest, maybe it pushes you to work a little harder to create some more excitement, which it has. And I mean, the thing about NXT, and it's Raw or SmackDown also, it's everything going on in WWE, but NXT, I think everyone now knows when you turn it on every week to expect the unexpected. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what wild thing is going to happen. I think by the end of every episode, people are actually excited to tune in the following week to see storylines continue, to see the matches that are being made. So it's just an exciting time for like all of the WWE,
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned it right there, Mr. Stone. Expect the unexpected. That's what's
it.
always made wrestling just such a hot thing, because it makes you want to turn the channel, right? And it makes you want to see what happens next. And here in NXT, it's been so hot recently. You've had the last couple episodes that's made people like, wow, I wasn't expecting that to happen. I want to go back just a couple weeks ago, NXT 2300. It was at the famous Philly building where ECW started. You're a Northeasterner yourself. What was that like, being in that building, having a WWE NXT tape show there? And of course, you've got to have all people come back. I mean, you saw Don Marie, you saw RVD, the Dudley Boys. You yourself had a run in with Rhino. So what was that like?
It was so cool. I mean, so I performed in the 2300 arena before it was the 2300 arena, when I guess it was still called the ECW arena only, or if it had a name. In probably 2002. So like 22 years ago, when it was still full on. It looked a lot different than it does now. Yeah, it looked a lot different than it does now. So throughout the years, I have been back to it. For different shows. Actually, my first ever, when I was a part of TNA, my first ever live event for TNA was in 2010, and it was against Rhino. So go figure, 14 years later, he's still goring me in the same building. But it was cool to see a lot of old friends, like, Dawn Marie's from my town. I'm friends with Francine, Nunzio, Dudley's, just guys that I've worked with, guys that I've traveled with. To see him again, and to see them also kind of get their flowers returning to the building and getting some exposure. It was just a really cool night. And I hope it's something that kind of maybe happens yearly or something. I don't know. It was just such a successful show, and it created so much excitement, and I think the fans were pleased. It wasn't a letdown. You get built up for things sometimes, you watch and you kind of go, oh, that wasn't that good. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was a great episode. The crowd was hot all night. The people got their money's worth, and it left me wanting more, and I think everybody else too.
I guess kind of talking about that, the NXT show was so unique, and so is the setup. You have the NXT arena down there in Orlando, and you've been on the main roster. You've been around everywhere. What makes it more unique to perform in front of that NXT crowd, and especially at a place like that? How does NXT stand out in performing in that arena than anywhere that you personally ever performed?
Well, the thing is, when you're in the same location for most of the time, you get a lot of the same hardcore fans
Sure.
every week. So it's similar to the cult following almost that ECW had when it started, when it was only at the ECW arena, and they built these crazy fans who were so invested in everything that was going on. That's kind of what happens at NXT. You know, we have these same die-hard, hardcore NXT fans that come every week that are so invested and know the characters. They see us arrive at the building and leave the building, and whether they hate us or love us, they put everything into it, almost like they're a part of the show. So that just, takes it to a whole nother level. There's no fans in the audience who, don't know what's going on or it's their first time at a show. They are there and they are involved,
Absolutely.
It's like one big family.
And that's what I figured, because you can honestly feel it on the screen too. And it almost reminds me of how they do things here in Louisville. Of course, we are home of Ohio Valley Wrestling. That used to be the home of the developmental program before NXT was a thing. And it's just such a small, compact, but intimate arena where you kind of get to learn and cut your teeth in the business. I see a lot of that reflected on the NXT side. Have you ever wrestled here in Louisville?
I have. I have. One time I wrestled for OVW. Man, I wish I could remember who I wrestled. But one time I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Same cool atmosphere. I remember the building, and
Davis
there's
Arena.
something about performing in like those small. It's almost like you get more nervous and it's more nerve-wracking when you're in that small setting and it's tight and the fans are packed in and you see that red light on. There's something about small buildings that it brings like an extra energy to the situation.
And it's the same thing as a fan, dude. When you're sitting there watching it, you feel like you can connect to the wrestlers a little bit more. Your chants are actually heard, so you kind of got to watch your mouth when you're trying to talk some ish to somebody. It's a little bit more experience. Now, I was talking to you off air, and I said that we're not a gotcha podcast. I lied to you because I have to ask. You've been in the ring toe to toe with now Rhino, and now you've been in the ring toe to toe with Braun Breaker. If you got the option, who are you not taking a spear from more? We got to know for the fans.
I think I might have been a little more laid out from Braun's. I think I might have been a little more laid out from Braun Breakers. Yeah.
I mean, he's doing big things on the WWE roster. You got to work with him and kind of like as he's developing. And all spears are created equally, but when you have a freak athlete like that can like hit the ropes at like something like 20 miles an hour or something that he does, it probably does not feel really good.
Yeah, my rib definitely still from a year ago when I felt it at Halloween Havoc last year. I think it still has a little something on it.
Hey, I don't blame you. That's why I'm a podcaster. I'm on this end of it. I've always
you're better off.
I've always been kind of a wuss when it came to that stuff. I secretly want to take a bump, but at the same time, I don't want to feel. I'm in my 30s now, so I don't want to feel it for like another 3 weeks. You're, of course, in more shape than me. You've done it for a while, so it's a surprise that even you're still feeling the effect.
Yeah, well, hey, you're in your 30s. That's a good place to be. I'm in my 40s, so even believe me, I'm not toning down the gore from Rhino because that did not feel good. Also, but if I had to pick one, I guess Braun. But
I got this. And let's talk about, like I said, we'll kind of continue on a couple more questions from NXT. We'll go ahead and get you out of here, complete on with your day. It was such a huge day for NXT just a couple of days ago with your recorded show. And the biggest talking points coming out of that, of course, was Chase U. They're no longer a thing, man. So what do you think that's going to be like going forward? Now you have Ridge Holland kind of on top of the world, ready to challenge Trick Williams. And where do we sign up for next semester if there's no Chase U?
Well, I'll tell you this. The next day I went to the gym. This is a true story. I went to the gym. I was working out. And someone's talking to me. I take my headphones out. It's an older guy. And he looked right at me. And I'm wondering what he's going to ask. And I have talked to the guy before. But he goes, "Is Chase U really done?" I kid you not. This is an old man at the gym said this to me. So that's how everyone feels about it. That's how sad everyone is about the Chase U situation. Everybody loves Chase U. If you're a bad guy, if you're a good guy, if you're a whatever, like if you don't like Chase U, there's got to be something. I think Ridge Holland is the only person who probably doesn't like Chase U because they're fun to watch. They're great in the ring. They're good people. But yeah, it's kind of sad. I mean, it's going to be different when you don't look in the audience and see all the Chase U shirts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, props to Ridge Holland. He's going to Deadline right now to go one-on-one with Trick Williams for the NXT Championship, so he got what he wanted. But Yeah, I don't know. I guess next Tuesday we'll see what that first week is like when they're not a part of it.
Yep. And I guess school is not in session anymore
School
from
is
them.
out.
School is out for the summer, the time being, the winter, whatever it is. But that's what I wanted to talk about was deadline coming up. It's going to be in Minnesota at the Armory Arena. You as a GM of NXT, what are you looking forward to the most? And for people that's going to be tuning into NXT, maybe watching it for the first time they have in a while, what do you think fans can expect from that show?
Well, you have your Iron Survivor matches, which are always super exciting to watch. But I mean, we just talked about it. NXT Championship, it doesn't get bigger. Trick Williams, Ridge Holland. Ridge is on such a warpath right now. I don't know if is Trick ready? I mean, Trick is always ready, but is he? So we're gonna see. So it's gonna be a great main event. Bringing NXT to Minnesota is gonna be great. It's been a while, so. As always, NXT is going to deliver on the biggest platform on this huge PLE, and I just get to sit back and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Hopefully, you don't have to take any spears or.
I'm going to be hiding. I'm going to be
Bumps.
hiding at that.
Take any super kicks from anybody. Well, of course, once again, we are speaking with NXT GM. We are speaking with Mr. Stone. Once again,
Assistant
thank you.
GM.
Assistant GM.
We don't want to get Ave upset. Assistant
No,
GM.
no. Listen, I don't want to mess with that family at all. They're already going through a lot right now. So once again, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And we're going to have Thanksgiving holidays start next week. I know that you're a family man. You have any traditions for Thanksgiving coming up? You guys you and your wife split going to different in-laws' house, or how's that done?
So her family's outside of Philly. Mine's in Jersey. So we are going to Philly and we'll be with her family for Thanksgiving, but then the following days we'll see my family. Yeah.
Awesome. That should be a good time. You have any overrated like Thanksgiving foods? I always try to ask that to people. You're always fun to connect with food. I'll just go ahead and start out first. I do not like stuffing as much as everybody else does. My mom makes it a huge thing, and we can't eat until her stuffing's done. To hell with that. I could care less about stuffing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, I don't want to sound like a big party pooper here when I say this, because I love Thanksgiving. I love the idea of it, the comfort, that Christmas is close, all that stuff. But the actual meal, I mean, if you get a really good turkey, it's great, like a lean, juicy turkey, love it. But everything else, it's just kind of there. I don't know. There's not many other things that, like, when you really think about it, is it that great? I don't know.
No,
that sounds terrible.
No, it all depends. And I know some people like do it a little bit different. Now, I know people that like, what do you call it? Like smoked turkey. I know people that they just do it a little bit more than your traditional, leave it in the oven all day and the whole house smells like it. But it's really, at the end of the day, for me, as I get into my 30s, it's more or less about the football and just being with family. I mean, like, it's fun to, as a broke kid, always kind of get to eat at your mom and dad's house for free.
Yeah.
Well, dude, once again, I want to thank you for joining the show. We are here with assistant NXT GM, Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone, now that you have this life-changing platform here in the Babyfaces on iHeartRadio with me, your host, Austin Montgomery, is there anything that you'd like to promote? You want to tell any fans where they can find you, how they can get a hold of you, where they can see you weekly?
For sure. Well, I mean, obviously, at Mr. Stone WWE is my Twitter, my Instagram, and my TikTok. But I did want to just real quick talk about weekly after NXT, right when it goes off the air, we are doing an Instagram live. Myself, the other assistant GM, Stevie Turner, and Blake Howard, who is a commentator on Level Up for the WWE. We're doing it right now, live on Stevie's Instagram, right when NXT ends, 5 minutes after NXT ends. And, it'll last give or take about 10 minutes. We take fan questions. We have guests on. So it's a super fun, interactive thing for the NXT universe. So please tune into that this Tuesday and every Tuesday, right when NXT goes off the air.
Awesome. We'll make sure to do that. We'll make sure to drive that because we want to keep getting the numbers on NXT. We want to make it even bigger than it already is. If people, you guys do not know about NXT, you need to watch it. It is technically very much where tomorrow's superstars are today. You're going to end up seeing some of these people on the main roster, and it'll be such a cool thing to say, hey, I remember watching them when they were feuding with this guy years ago back on NXT, and you could say that you watched it there first. It's an honor having you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, and you're now a friend of the show, a friend of the Babyfaces. You are always welcomed on the show, and feel free to let anybody in the back know, anybody in the locker room know that they are more than invited to come on the show if they ever want to promote anything, if they just ever want to talk and maybe even get away from wrestling sometimes. If you just want to talk sports or just kind of talk about what's going on in life, we're the kind of guys to talk to. So just let everybody know it's an open invitation. You're more than welcome back for any time, Mr. Stone.
All right, I appreciate it. And I'm not going to eat stuffing now that you put that in my head.
That's right. We're getting on the no stuffing gang. Once again, thank you so much for listening. This is another exclusive episode with a special guest, assistant NXT GM, Mr. Stone. This is the Babyfaces podcast on iHeartRadio. Thank you guys for listening.